Hi, my name is Rachelle Smith, entrepreneur, professional speaker, and author. Last time, I shared some valuable lessons that I learned from my recent trip back home, Louisiana and Mississippi, for my late grandmother, Miss Ludie Mae Sanders Smith funeral. So, huge family, as I mentioned. My father is the second oldest of 15 children and actually lost a brother in Vietnam, as I mentioned in the last episode. So, massive family reunion, and there's something that I actually want to share on this particular episode. I'm going to push off the undercover lessons in a general sense for next week. Actually, I plan to share the lessons on hiring and all of that today, but I'm going to push that off into next week. So stay tuned for those. But I actually wanted to continue this conversation, something that I ended with in the last episode, and that is, again, value your family. Family, your relationships with your family, are certainly not going to, because we're not going to live forever. All right, so it's important that we love our families, that we cherish our families, that we make time for our families, and that's something that was really apparent in my grandmother's funeral, pardon me. And that is, as the siblings, as her children, of course my father was one of them, got up to speak and sharing their reflections, there's certainly something that came to mind. This is something that I've written about in a past book, and it's something I've spoken about. And that is this concept of the power of presence. And I really want to appeal and I really want to challenge parents today in this particular episode. And that is the power of presence. The power of presence. And I'm not talking about gifts and things like that. I'm talking about presence, as in your ability to be there for your children, no excuses, attentive, loving, giving, understanding, all of those positive things that relate to parental presence. All right, and when I think about, like I said, the funeral, they were, some of my grandmother's, children got up to speak, to share. Several of them shared different reflections on her and her life and her impact on them, impact on the community, things like that. She was 88 years old when she passed away. And so each were sharing their reflections, and there's something that became so obvious as I tie it back together to this power of presence, that even with 15 children, all right, 15 children, family was a priority. That family was first. Family was first. Family was first. I mean, you kept hearing that theme over and over again. Family was first. And when I think back, reflect on my own parents, and when I think about, they weren't chasing the titles, they weren't chasing riches and all of that. Family was first. Family was most important. And I've mentored people at the college level, especially at the high school level years ago, where family was not first. And kids and young adults and older adults, sometimes 50, 60, 70 years later, are still traumatized by the fact that they did not experience parental presence. All right, the parents never made them a priority. They were too busy. They were working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, never came to the games, never supported them, never said, I love you. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, just a plethora of different mistakes that were made by parents, many cases unintentionally. Okay, working hard, trying to get the promotion, to make more money, to buy the family this, or to move in this house, to buy this kind of car. All right, but folks, recognize your presence is most important. All right, and research has been done. Studies have shown, all right, that kids, when you give them an opportunity, do you want to have, ultimately, do you want to have your parents there for you and make time for you and love you? Or do you want the next gadget? Or do you want whatever's hot now in terms of gadgets? All right, we all, just from the time we're born, want approval, want love, want acceptance from our parents. All right, and this doesn't matter if you're a single parent or if you've been married 30, 40, 50 years. Parental presence is so important. Because when you think about the family, we think about the family unit. The family is a pillar in any community. All right, so don't let anything or anyone, any job, any position, even any ambition come between you and your family and your commitment to, again, your children, the power of presence. All right, because I can tell you from personal experience, mentoring people who lack that. All right, Karen Horney, she's a psychologist, wrote some awesome books on psychology. I read one a number of years ago, and And she talked about this concept of, whatever we don't, just to paraphrase, whatever we don't experience and receive as children, we will spend the rest of our lives trying to get it. So think about that. We think about this even from a sociological perspective. So much and so many of the societal ills that we experience in this country and around the world, they can come back to this whole concept of, I never received love growing up. I never received affirmation. My parents were never there for me. My parents chose a man or woman over me. My parents chose work over me. My parents chose drugs or some other type of addiction over me. I mean, that list is long. All right, whatever we don't receive as children, we will spend the rest of our lives trying to get it. Love, acceptance, approval, admiration, recognition, respect, all of that, understanding, all of that. And that's why when we look at some of the people that, regardless of their titles, they could be, president of the company, the president of the country or the CEO, whatever the case may be, that you still will see, those underlying needs, those unmet needs can come roaring out. All right, and I won't turn this into an episode on psychology as much as I'd love to, but just suffice to say, you have the ability to turn the tide. And you may have grown up with adverse circumstances, parents not there for you, or distracted and consumed with an addiction, or abusive. Okay, that list is long in terms of what could have gone wrong. But you have the ability to chart a new course, all right, with your future, with your kids, to say, you know what, I'm going to be there for my kids. I'm going to love them. I'm going to support them. I'm going to encourage them. All right, and so folks, it truly is up to you. And I think back to my parents, and something I wrote about in that particular book about the power of presence. And when I think back to my young years, when I'm playing multiple sports and one and both of my parents, I wasn't looking out in the stands wondering where my parents were or how come nobody showed up to come to a game. Just my parents were that, and my brother and my sister just very supportive of all of us, wanted the best for us, challenged us to reach the next level. All right, and so folks, this is something that is just so important, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today without having that. Yes, I'm full of love. Yes, I'm full of energy. Yes, I'm full of enthusiasm and zest for life. Yes, I'm full of positivity and all of that. All right, love for people, want the best for people, want to cheer people on. But that's because that's something I've been receiving my whole life. All right, and so there's this whole notion, it's actually a formal saying, but people can't give away what they don't have. And so I'm able to give all of this away, even in these episodes or in my books or whatever, training, speaking, whatever, because that's something that I'm full of inside. So it's easy for me to give it away. All right, speaking, and I've shared this in that particular chapter as well. When I think about my two speech coaches, yes, I had a speech professor, wonderful speech professor, actually mentored me for a number of years after that class. But my mom in that class, in my communications speech class, as well as in subsequent presentations, all right, my mom would listen to me. I would rehearse. I would go through the speeches. My mom would have to listen to them. She would listen to, laugh at the same corny jokes and hear the same corny jokes. I would tell time after time when I rehearsed. And then my dad had a lot of flexibility in his job, so he would actually come to my class and listen to me speak, or so I had, again, the best of both worlds. The best of both worlds. So very, 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 yes, I went through the rebellious years, as a teenager, where I thought I knew everything, and my parents were the enemy, and I thought I was always right and knew everything, and they don't know anything. But fortunately, I came to my senses. All right, and so for those of you young people who, again, think that my parents are just always on my case and whatever, that's because they care. Okay, and again, this goes back to the neglectful parents that don't care. Do you want parents who care about you, or do you want parents who just could care less? You may think, particularly as a teenager, you want the carefree parents, and so-and-so's parents let them do whatever. And I can tell you, even when I look back at Seoul American High School, where, and I look at some of my classmates, and I look back in humility, and when I say this with humility, and I look back and say, man, I used to really just admire them and just envy them, and their parents let them do whatever they want to do and whatever. All right, and I humbly state this, but don't let me get into what has happened and how their lives turned out, because they had parents who didn't care. Just diametrically opposed paths we've taken. So I'm grateful that my parents, were cared about me and wanted to enforce some rules and standards and set some boundaries. I may not have appreciated it then, but I certainly appreciate it now. But folks, and parents in particular, I just want to challenge you today. Don't feel bad. I'm not here to condemn you, make you feel bad, shame you in any way. if you've just been kind of slacking off in the child rearing department and not making time, and thinking and allowing them to raise themselves and be latchkey kids while you go and work 80 hours a week and all of that, there's always a new beginning. I say that over and over again. There's always tomorrow. There's always an opportunity for change. And change starts with you. It's possible. All right, and I just so much want, I just so much wish, and people have told me, Rachelle, you are so blessed. You have parents that love you. You have a family that loves you, that supports you, that's encouraged you. Professors would tell me that. Friends would tell me that. A couple of guys I dated told me that. All right, and yes, it's kind of easy to take it for granted when you come from a really strong family and a good family, when there's so many people that don't come from those backgrounds. All right, but I just want to make it a point today to push off the undercover lessons to next week, because I feel so strongly about this concept. Be there for your kids. Love your kids. Tell them they can do anything. All right, I was a daddy's girl. When I think back to, when I reflect upon just my own child, both my parents are wonderful. But being a daddy's girl and having my dad, he's 6'2", a strong dad, a smart dad, encouraged me, particularly as a female, did not put limitations on me as a female and didn't allow me to put limitations on myself. I'm out playing multiple sports. I was out being adventurous, trying all these new things. That's why I like Variety Today. And he calls me Miss Versatility, because I like a whole lot of different things and I like change. But that's because I'm not afraid to take risks. I have the confidence to try new things, to take new risks, and not worry about failing. And I've shared in a past episode, he taught me, and he said, nothing fails but a try. You always say that. You gotta try. If you fail, oh well, learn the lesson, move on, or keep at it, keep trying. But that is the lesson. Mother, very different personality types. I had the best of both worlds in parenting. She's very compassionate, very empathetic, very understanding, very loving, very just warm. My dad is very serious, very black and white. So I had the best of both worlds. And she, if I'm making a major life decision, my mother's going to be the first person to know about it. A major life change, anything like that, different direction, whatever. She's always the first person to know. But super, super supportive parents. Love them both, my brother and sister. But my parents sacrificed a lot for us. Sacrificed a lot for us. Always wanted the best for us, and I'm so grateful. But folks, and that's why I'm able to give all of this away, because I'm so full of it, because of them, because of my brother, because of my sister. Love my family and my extended family, massive extended family. But just another point I wanted to make here on the importance, the power of presence, but more importantly, the power of parental presence. That you can chart a new course, you can go in a different direction, you can make earth-shattering changes in this family, in your family, and ultimately on the world. But it all starts with you, making your children a priority. Thank you so much for your time.